Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming here today. It's good to see a number of people, old friends and familiar faces. This is the beginning of a conversation, an honest conversation with the citizens of New Jersey. There won't be any filters, no party chairman to object, no lobbyists to please, no special interest to cater to. Just me speaking with you. Our state and our nation face the most difficult economic crisis since the Great Depression. But New Jersey was in a crisis long before the stock market crashed and the housing bubble burst. And our leaders in both parties knew it was coming and did nothing about it. Our library shelves are lined with commission reports and academic studies, a number of which are right here, accurately warning that New Jersey is growing less and less competitive, that we have one of the highest combined property tax and state tax burdens in the country, that we are losing high-end, high-paying jobs, that we are failing to invest in our university research and development sector, that our economic growth rate is lagging behind even such high-cost competitors as New York, and that we are losing not only our businesses, but our greatest resource, our people, to other states. Both parties intentionally underestimate the depth of New Jersey's economic and budgetary problems because politically it is too difficult and too dangerous to face the challenge head on. Doing the right thing would endanger the only industries that are growing in New Jersey today: party politics and government. Well, I don't know about you, but I've had enough. Change starts with telling the truth. The political parties and their candidates won't tell you the truth. I will. There's a good quote from former Governor Brendan Byrne who said, "If you live in New Jersey and you're not getting something for nothing, you're not getting your fair share." It's a great laugh line, but it's also the core of our problem. Our government, governors, legislators, town councils, and school boards give away pay increases, benefits, rebates, tax breaks, and pension sweeteners as if they are free. Why? Maybe they need the support of a special interest group to keep their majority in the state assembly or senate, or on the township committee, or to be reelected as governor. Maybe they know the cost isn't going to show up in the budget for a couple of years. Maybe they've lost touch with what they are doing to your family, your pocketbook, or your community. Or maybe they just don't care. But you don't get something for nothing. Somebody has to pay for it. And as citizens of New Jersey, we're all paying for it. We pay for it when companies decide to expand somewhere else because the cost of doing business in New Jersey is too high. We pay for it when executives retire and leave for states with lower income taxes. We pay for it when our senior citizens on fixed incomes are forced to sell their homes because they can't afford their property taxes, and when our children leave for states that offer better jobs. We pay for it when our middle-income workers move across the river to Pennsylvania because the overall cost of living is lower. We pay for it even if we are members of the special interest groups that are getting special benefits. New Jersey is in a downward spiral because our state, county, and local governments and our school districts are living beyond our means. Our two political parties aren't being honest with us, and they know it. For the last 3 months, the governor and members of the legislature have all been talking about how New Jersey's state budget is being slashed by $3.4 billion and about how they are making the so-called tough decisions. But those figures only represent the state tax revenue side of the budget. Let's tell the truth. New Jersey state spending isn't just state revenue, but also federal funds and dedicated and revolving funds that include, for example, fees and open space and transportation trust fund spending. Total New Jersey state spending was actually $47.5 billion last year, and it is projected to grow to $48.3 billion next year. The largest amount of money spent by any state government in New Jersey history. There's no cut in state spending. There's no cut in the state budget. We're not doing more with less. It's not that party politicians can't do the arithmetic. Politically, it isn't convenient to tell the voters that spending is not going down. It also isn't honest. Governor Corzine's own treasurer said, and I quote, "Someday some governor who doesn't have to worry about the politics of it can go and bring everything on budget. That someday is today. That governor who isn't going to let politics dictate decisions is me. And I'm here to tell you that New Jersey's current budget is $47 billion and rising, whether the party politicians want to say so or not. Democratic and Republican politicians think New Jerseyans can't handle the truth. New Jerseyans have already figured out the truth. That's why so many are leaving or planning to leave New Jersey, and that's why they don't trust politicians. They too have had enough. Let's tell the rest of the truth. The so-called tough decisions that are being made in this budget are about choosing winners and losers, often for political reasons rather than for policy reasons. Senior citizens making $80,000 a year get $1,200 property tax rebates, and their property taxes are frozen at 2004 levels, while rebates for working families making that same $80,000 a year are eliminated even though they have a mortgage, college bills, and more mouths to feed. Why? To quote party politicians, because senior citizens vote. State workers are asked to give up negotiated pay increases and take unpaid furloughs, while local governments and school boards are increasing worker salaries by an average of 4%. Why? Again, to quote party politicians, because it's political suicide not to. Local governments get mandates from the state legislature to provide more and more services, while also being forced to cap increases in property taxes. Why? And again, and finally to quote party politicians, because the state doesn't have the money to pay for it. Let's really talk about tough decisions. The so-called tough decisions that are being made in this budget are nothing compared to the truly tough decisions that will have to be made by the next governor, who will confront a real budget gap of $4 billion or more the day he takes office. This budget is the mother of all one-shot gimmicks. What happens to the budget in fiscal year 2011 when the billions in federal stimulus money disappear? What happens when the so-called temporary reduction in property tax rebates for middle-income taxpayers ends? What happens to the budget in fiscal year 2011 when the so-called one-year-only increase to 10.25% in the top income tax rate goes away? What happens when the so-called temporary elimination of the property tax deduction on income taxes for those making over $150,000 ends? And what happens when state worker pay freezes and furlough days all go away? How can we get our financial house in order then? Or are all of these so-called temporary changes that the governor and legislature freely acknowledge are devastating to New Jersey's competitive position in the world economy not really going to go away? More truth. We need to talk honestly about what makes public employee salaries and pension and health care benefits, or pension and health care costs, rise faster than our struggling private sector can afford. In fact, it's not a mystery or a surprise. It's all right here in the Murphy report, which was done in 2005, over 4 years ago. But let's really be honest. The biggest rise in government spending is taking place not in the state government, but at the local level. How can school boards and municipal governments continue to give out 4% annual salary raises when the citizens of their towns are losing their jobs and taking unpaid furloughs and pay cuts? We have met the enemy, and it is our own political parties. The parties hide behind the mantra of home rule, not only because they believe it is too difficult politically to reduce the ruinous property taxes that are the biggest obstacle to New Jersey's economic growth, but because those property taxes fund their patronage machines. We, the people of New Jersey, have to start taking control of our government and living within our means. In our hearts, we know this. Many Democrats and Republicans, not to mention the many independents who make up nearly 50% of our electorate, have long since come to believe that neither party is willing or able to make the politically difficult decisions necessary to fix the state's fiscal crisis and to make New Jersey competitive again.